Hi, my name's Rick. A lot of these tutorials have been on the internet. I'm going to try to simplify it a little bit for some people that don't have a lot of skills in doing, certain things like this. I mean, it's not really difficult to do. Hopefully I can walk you through it. I've already got a finished product, but I think I can verbally maybe explain exactly what you need to do and what items you need to get. These are becoming pretty popular. They're called weighted balls, exercise balls, medicine balls. The medicine balls were the original term when they were used for getting ready to get yourself in physical condition to box and things like that. And the ultimate fighting and things like that have come along where the mixed martial arts, and a lot of guys are using these things. You call them slam balls. There's all kinds of different terms. You can throw them on the ground. You can throw them, with a partner back and forth. You can use them for ab workouts. You can use them for multiple workouts. But I'm going to try to show you something that I've come up with, which is fairly easy. This one here is a 6-pound ball. I just put 6 on there so my wife and I can figure out which ones we're using. This is basically just a beginner ball, and you'd be surprised once you fill it up. It's heavier than you think, 6 pounds, when you're doing your ab workout or you're throwing it back and forth. It'll give you a pretty good workout, or actually you can use it as like a warm-up before you start to work out, because you're using a lot of different muscles. You can squat with them, and there's all kinds of different exercises on the internet that'll show you, what to do with these. But this one right here, I've seen a lot of videos where a lot of guys will take the stems out, either out of the basketballs or out of the soccer balls. And if you got a cheap ball, or you can go get one from your basic store up the street, they're fairly cheap. You can get these roughly around $6, $8, $10, depending on the quality you want. I mean, of course, a good leather ball is going to be a lot more expensive, or if you have some old leather balls that have worn out, they'd be great for this. And, get them from like a rec center or somewhere where they used a lot of these basketballs and soccer balls. I use this one for this project, a soccer ball. I have one laying around. I did try to remove the stem, and it broke off the front part of it because it's just a little rubber part of the stem, just where you guide your needle in. The actual part of the stem is actually in there, so it was intact and I could still use it. With the soccer ball, when you're doing these types, or like a tether ball or a volleyball, they basically have an outer shell, and then inside they have a rubber membrane, almost like a big rubber inner tube, and that's inside of here. So what I did was I went to one of these shapes here, like an octagon type shape, and I cut that out. I went from here all the way around to here and just peeled it back. That exposed the rubber inner membrane. Then I only cut it about maybe a 1/4 inch hole that would allow for a funnel to drop in there, make it easy to fill up, with whatever you wanted, water, sand. I use sand in this design. You can get your sand pretty cheap at any like Lowe's or home improvement store. And what I did was, I haven't seen them like this, but I figured I'd try it out. I had bicycle inner tube patch kits. They come in different sizes. You can get small ones or larger ones, depending on what type of hole you had in your inner tube in your tire. So I figured I'd use that on that rubber membrane. And then you have, cement that comes with those kits. These kits are really cheap. You can get those too from anywhere, basically. So once I had that opened up and I had the cut open, I went ahead and I filled it with sand. And as I did it, I put it on my scale. And once I got to the 6-pound mark, I took it off. And I went ahead and I patched it with one of these with the rubber cement over top of the hole. And I allowed that to dry about 10-15 minutes. Once that was dry, I went ahead and I got my bicycle pump, and with the pin to fill it up, and I went ahead and put it in, and I started putting air in to check it, and it was fine. It worked out great. Once it gave it some rigidity, so it's not collapsing or anything like that. You can put more in there if you want to, depending on how much you're going to throw it around. Then I just went around and I got just a regular needle and thread with some heavy duty thread, and went back and stitched that back so it didn't change it or make it look very unsightly, and then just went ahead and put the number 6 on there just to mark what the poundage was. Now, to go back a little bit, with this stem, sometimes it's easier to put this in before you start if your ball has good pressure, to get some of the air out so you can get that membrane to collapse inside there a little bit. So when you go to make your cut across inside the rubber membrane inside here, you know, you won't slice right through here when you're trying to cut through the little patches here. And you know, you can go ahead and put your rubber cement on and get that one done. Now, this is the other design that a lot of people are doing, and I've seen on the internet where you can take your needle nose pliers and you can go in there and you can pop that stem out. That usually works for like a good leather ball. I wouldn't advise it against these cheap ones because you're going to break that stem off, and you do need that stem to go ahead and inflate these again. Now, what people are doing is they're taking the regular tire kits that you get for plugging your tire. This is another type of way of doing it. I've seen some on the internet where people will cut a flap in here and then they'll go back and they'll rubber cement it, or they'll wrap the whole thing up in duct tape, and I didn't like that design. So I've seen this design on there where a lot of people have done it, and you just get these regular tire plug kits. I mean, they're cheap too. They come with a little plug. And you go back and you find a spot on the ball, and I would recommend probably close to where the stem area is. That way when you're filling it, what you want to do is you want to go ahead and put your needle in, you know, to bleed off the air out of the ball. And then once you get it down to where, you know, it's pliable and it's easy to work with, you don't want all that air in there, because once you start to puncture this thing, it's going to blow, you know, that air and everything right in your eye. And if you have any dust in the area or whatever, you know, it could go right in your eye. So you take one of these reamers that you usually use when you do your tires, and you find a spot on the ball where you want to go ahead and put your plug. And you go ahead and puncture the ball, and it gives it about maybe like a 1/4 inch hole. What I would recommend is you go to like a dollar store or something and you get a small funnel like this. I mean, they're cheap, like $1. You can get a kit of them or something. The other thing is, this is a time-consuming part. You get this, and once you have your hole in there, you're going to fill that up, and you're going to have to keep filling and filling and filling and filling. In the meantime, you got your stem in there, which is going to allow air to evacuate as you're filling the ball up. Once you get the ball to a size that you want, I mean a weight that you want, it can be anywhere from 5 pounds to 20 pounds to 30 pounds, whatever you can fit in the ball, basically. You know, the sky's the limit. Once that's done and you're filled up, you'll have your hole here, you know, of course, from where you filled your sand up. You go back with one of these kits. You put your plug in there, you go ahead and you push that through the ball, and then you pull back. You'll have a little nub that's sticking out. You just cut that nub off, and you go ahead and reinflate your ball to the pressure that you want, that you can work with. Now, these are really good. These will work for like slam balls. They're not going to, you know, leak out or anything or split. I mean, if you get the leather ball, that's even better. I mean, the rubber balls are cheap enough for what you want to do. But these work out to be a pretty good project. It doesn't take too long. These now, when you're going to fill up a lot more in the basketball, it could take up to 2 hours filling the sand up, depending on how much you want it to weigh. This project here, this only took about maybe 45 minutes, and that was just trying to get an idea of what I wanted to do, and it works out good. I mean, it's pretty darn rigid, and it works out real well to do whatever kind of exercise you want. But that's just a small tutorial. If you guys have any questions or whatever, feel free to go ahead and say them. I'll see if I can walk you through it. I know this video was fairly long, but hopefully that'll help some of the people that are on the fence with trying to make one of these. They're not difficult at all, and good luck.